You won't believe it, but when I won first prize in the statewide math competition, my parents said just 2 words, good job. But when my younger brother, Liam, got an honorable mention in a local soccer tournament, they threw a BBQ party and invited nearly the whole neighborhood. That was when I realized fairness was a luxury in my family. Every effort I made was invisible in their eyes, while Liam only had to breathe correctly to be praised like a genius. At one point, I even wondered if I had been switched at birth because I clearly didn't belong here. My name is Emma. I'm 26 years old, born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm the eldest in a family of 4, my parents, me, and my younger brother, Liam, who's 3 years younger. On the surface, we looked like any typical family, a 2-story wooden house with white fences and a small backyard garden full of lavender my mom planted. But behind that door was a world where I learned to survive in silence because, no matter how hard I tried, I was just a faint shadow next to the spotlight they always reserved for Liam. I started noticing the difference when I was very young, maybe around 2nd grade. That day, I had been chosen to recite a poem for our school celebration. I practiced all week, rewriting every line, and when I got home, excited to tell my mom, she just mumbled, "Oh, that's fine. But don't forget to bring in Liam's shoes from the porch. It's going to rain." I stood frozen, still holding the paper that my teachers had praised as emotional and beyond her age. But all my mom cared about were Liam's dirty shoes. Liam was always different, always special. The year he got into the school's soccer team, just the junior varsity, not even varsity, my parents went around telling everyone like he had been drafted to the national team. They bought him a brand new pair of Adidas cleats worth nearly $200, while I was still using a hand-me-down backpack from last year with frayed straps. I never had a proper birthday party. The last time I had a cake was when I turned 10, a small, discounted one from the grocery store. But when Liam turned 13, my parents booked a full outdoor party at Centennial Park with tents, balloons, tons of food, and over 30 guests. I remember standing in the corner, taking pictures for him on my phone and overhearing my mom tell a friend, "He deserves it all. He always brings joy to this family." Joy. Did anyone ever ask how I felt? Did anyone ever ask if I was okay doing homework alone with no one to help while Liam got mom sitting beside him, going through every math problem, every paragraph, and rewarding him with vanilla ice cream afterward? I studied by myself, took care of myself, fought to get on the honor roll, only to receive a few indifferent nods. In high school, I got a perfect score in science and was nominated to join the prestigious STEM program at the University of Minnesota. I was thrilled and printed the invitation letter to show my parents, thinking, maybe, just maybe, they'd be proud this time. But Dad only looked up from the TV for 3 seconds and said, "Well, do whatever you want, just don't slack off on your chores." And Mom gave a tight smile. "Studying is good, but remember you're a girl, don't get too caught up. You'll need to take care of your family once you're married." I lost count of how many words I swallowed back every time. Liam got driven to school while I had to bike through the snow. I told myself, "It's fine." Every time I had stomach cramps and Mom said, "Don't exaggerate," while Liam sneezed and got hot lemon tea with a warm towel, I tried to convince myself maybe she just forgot. But the truth is, she didn't forget. She just didn't care. All throughout my childhood, I felt like I was stuck in a math problem where, no matter how hard I tried, I was always the wrong number. I tried to be the model child, obedient, studious, but none of it ever mattered unless I was Liam. And little by little, I realized it wasn't that I lacked achievements, I lacked being their choice. They chose to cherish one of us, and I wasn't the one. I still remember that afternoon so clearly, a gloomy May afternoon, gray skies overhead, but my heart was bright with hope. I had just graduated summa cum laude in economics from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, 4 years of school, 3 part-time jobs, 2 breakdowns when I almost lost my scholarship, and 1 single phone call from my mom the entire time. All of it led to that moment. I had imagined different scenarios at the very least. A hug, and Emma, we're proud of you. I didn't need fireworks or gifts, just acknowledgement. But my parents showed up nearly an hour late, not because of traffic, but because they had stopped to buy a discounted bouquet of tulips at the supermarket near campus. The flowers were wilted, and that was all they brought for my graduation. I thought yellow looked nice on you. Look, it even has a bow, my mom beamed, holding the bouquet like it was a treasure. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I looked down at my worn-out shoes, the dress I had borrowed from my roommate, and whispered, "Thanks, Mom." After the ceremony, I asked softly, "Should we go eat something to celebrate? I know a nice Italian place nearby." Dad looked up from his phone and asked, "Paying?" I stayed quiet. They didn't ask what I wanted. They didn't discuss it. They just got in the car and let me drive them to the restaurant, where I paid a $120 bill with the money. I'd saved up for months working at the campus library. No thank you, no congratulations, just a comment about how I should learn to eat more frugally. I gave a strained smile as I cut into my lasagna, my stomach twisting with bitterness. I swallowed along with every spoonful of soup. That day, I made myself a promise. I would never expect anything from them again. But that promise fell apart 2 years later when Liam graduated. I was working as a financial analyst at a private firm in Street. Paul! It was a Thursday morning, and I had just finished making coffee when I got a text from my mom, "Liam's graduation party tonight, 6:00 p.m. at Stone Creek Restaurant. Don't be late. Bring a gift." No invitation, no phone call, no one asked if I was free, just a command. I stared at the message, my mind freezing. I remembered that lonely dinner 2 years ago. I remembered every indifferent glance, the cold clinking of silverware on plates, and how no one ever said the words, "We're proud." And now, once again, I was being summoned like some background extra at the Golden Boys celebration. I didn't reply to the text, but that evening I still showed up because part of me was still a sister. I had ordered an iPad Pro priced over $1,300 sand, asked the store to gift wrap it and deliver it straight to the restaurant. When I walked into Stone Creek, a place I had never set foot in despite working just a few blocks away, I was stunned. Crystal chandeliers, long tables draped in crisp white linen, over 60 guests laughing and chatting, and a 3-tier cake covered in navy blue frosting, Liam's favorite color. I stood there like an uninvited guest while Liam's friends and extended family I didn't even recognize were warmly welcomed. I asked a server, "Is there any seat available?" He checked the list, then shook his head. "Sorry, everything has been reserved." I looked around. There were still chairs, one next to Liam even. Still empty. I walked toward it, but my mom stepped in front of me. "That seat's for Jason, Liam's best friend. He's just running a little late." I gave a tight smile. "So his late arriving best friend gets a seat. But my mom shrugged and cut me off. "Did you at least bring a gift? If not, it's better you don't embarrass the family." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was the delivery driver. I'm outside the restaurant with the iPad order for Liam. "Should I bring it in?" I took a deep breath and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Yes, bring it in." The room went quiet. All eyes turned toward the delivery man walking in, holding a neatly wrapped gift box. I smiled and stepped forward. "Liam, this is your graduation gift, an iPad Pro." Gasps echoed through the room. Liam's jaw dropped. His eyes lit up. My mom whispered to a distant cousin, "See? I knew she wouldn't come empty-handed." I heard every word. It sounded more like a smug pat on the back than pride. I smiled, but not out of joy. I looked at Liam, then at the delivery man. "I'm sorry, I've changed my mind. I'd like to cancel the order." The entire room froze. My mom froze. Liam looked like someone had just thrown ice water in his face. The delivery guy looked slightly confused, but remained professional and nodded. Okay, there's a 5% cancellation fee. The rest will be refunded within 5 business days. I nodded calmly. It's fine. And then I turned around, leaving behind a room plunged in stunned silence. I didn't need a seat at that table, and I certainly didn't need to buy my place in a family that never had one for me. I thought I had grown used to being overlooked, but that moment, standing in a fancy restaurant, treated like a stranger, shattered every shell of strength I had built. No seat, no place, not even a question if I had eaten. The only thing they asked was, "Where's the gift?" I stood there, still holding my phone, when the delivery guy walked in with the large silver-wrapped box. The room went dead silent, like someone had flipped a switch. Every eye was on me, on the expensive gift, the $1,300 Pad Pro 1. I once thought would be a beautiful memory for my brother despite all the injustice of the past. I spoke clearly so the entire room could hear. "Liam, this is your graduation gift." Liam looked up, eyes sparkling in disbelief. "Really? You bought this for me?" My mom beamed, gently squeezing a nearby relative's shoulder. "See, I told you, no matter how mad she gets, she knows her place. She just likes to act cold." I looked at her, then at my dad, who nodded slowly, like he'd just been reassured. His daughter had finally done the right thing. Then I turned to the delivery man. "I'd like to cancel the order." The man blinked. "Sorry, cancel the order?" I nodded, my voice steadier than I expected. "That's right! Cancel the gift. I don't want to give it anymore." No one said a word, only the faint sound of silverware clinking came from the far end of the table. The delivery man took out his phone, called the store, and confirmed the cancellation. After a few minutes, he came back. "A 5% fee will be deducted, and the rest refunded in 3-5 days. Perfect." "Thank you," I said. He nodded politely and left the restaurant. I stood there, facing a storm of shocked, angry, and uncomfortable stares rising around me. Liam slammed his hand on the table, voice sharp. "Are you crazy? You just wanted to humiliate me, didn't you?" I looked at my brother, the one who had been protected like a glass doll, never knowing rejection, never having to wait for anyone to listen. "You already have this whole party, over 60 guests, and a 3-tier cake. If you can't handle not getting a gift from me, maybe the problem lies somewhere else." My dad stood up abruptly, his face red with anger. "Emma, what do you think you're doing? Do you think making a scene like this is going to get you anything?" My mom wasn't calm anymore. She stood beside me, her voice shrill. "You're being unbelievable. All you had to do was bring a gift and sit down for a meal like a normal person." I looked her straight in the eye. "Normal? Like my graduation day, when the whole family brought wilted flowers and made me pay for my own meal? Normal like today, when I didn't even get a chair, but Liam's late friend still got a seat of honor?" No one responded, not a single excuse, just a thick, awkward silence, like I had just ruined a perfectly staged performance. I turned my back. As I walked away, I spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "If I don't have a seat at this table, then I have no reason to buy a gift for someone who's never shared a seat with me." And I left no rush, no looking back. I didn't go home right away. I drove to a small cafe on the outskirts of Edina, the place I always went when I wanted to disappear from the world. The shop was still open, warm lights casting a soft glow on the worn wooden walls. I ordered an iced espresso, picked a quiet corner in the back, and sat down, like I had just taken a boulder off my chest. Soft music played. The smell of coffee lingered in the air like a faint comfort. I didn't feel regret, not one bit. I knew they were probably furious. I knew there'd be heated conversations at home tonight. But I also knew this was just the beginning because I had just broken the role they assigned me since I was a child, the quiet daughter, always polite, always responsible, but never allowed to share anything. For the first time, I didn't do what they expected, and that feeling, it was freeing. I got back to my apartment around 11 p.m. After 3 hours at the cafe, just trying to calm down. I'd thought they'd at least wait until the next day to react, but no. When I opened the door, the living room lights were still on. My mom sat on the sofa, arms crossed, her eyes sharp like knives. My dad leaned against the fireplace, his face heavy, like I had just killed someone. I hadn't even taken off my shoes when my mom spoke. "So, you finally decided to come home." I quietly put my bag down, took off my coat, and said softly, "I thought you'd be asleep." My dad let out a snort, a laugh laced with contempt. "After the circus you pulled tonight, embarrassing the whole family in front of relatives and friends, then walking in here like nothing happened?" I sat on the edge of the couch, trying to keep my voice calm. "If you call that a circus, then maybe it's time we stop pretending. I'm done playing along." My mom cut in, not even trying to be subtle. "The party tonight cost $4,600. We think the least you can do is pay half." I was stunned. "What?" $2,300. My mom repeated, "Consider it compensation for the iPad you canceled." I laughed not from amusement, but from disbelief. So I was insulted the moment I walked in, given no seat, subtly told to leave the table, treated like an outsider, and now I'm supposed to pay for a dinner I didn't even get to eat. My dad's voice turned harsh. "You're his sister. You should feel responsible for your brother. He was really looking forward to that gift. You ruined his night." I clenched my hands, my knuckles turning white. Do you even know how I felt on my graduation day? No party, no congratulations, no hug, and I had to pay $120 for dinner for the whole family while I was surviving on instant noodles to save money for rent. My mom frowned, her tone ice cold. "You were already earning money then. You had a part-time job, didn't you?" Liam had nothing. Yes, I earned money. I got scholarships. I worked 3 jobs at once to pay tuition. And because I could take care of myself, that gave you an excuse not to care? I turned to my dad, who usually stayed quiet when my mom talked. But this time he sighed and said, almost like a command, "Family is about supporting each other. If you earn more, then sharing is the right thing to do." I stood up, no longer holding back. "Support? Sharing?" Where was the sharing when I was sick and had to cook for myself? Where was the support when my birthday passed like any other day while Liam got BBQs? Cakes and balloons? All you ever do is demand, never once asked if I had enough strength to give. My mom stood up and pointed her finger straight at my face. "You're selfish. If you can't even be considerate toward your own brother, how are you going to survive out there in the real world?" I looked her straight in the eye. For the first time in my life, I didn't look away. It's not that I won't give in, it's that I've been giving in my whole life. And today, for the first time, I stopped. "And that's all it takes for you to call me selfish?" The living room went silent, but it wasn't the silence of guilt, it was the silence before the next blow. My dad was the one to deliver it. "If you're not willing to help, then stop freeloading in this house." I gave a cold smile. "I pay $1,000 a month to live here in this old house with no central air. Walls so thin I can hear the neighbors cough. And if you want me gone, I'll go." My mom blinked, slightly caught off guard. "Emma, don't overreact. Things can still be worked out if you just be a little more flexible." I shook my head. It's not about being stubborn, it's about finally saying enough. If every apology comes with a price tag, then that's not family. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and showed them the screen. "I'm not paying the $2,300, not today. Not ever." My dad slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "Then get out of my house!" I didn't flinch. I wasn't angry. I just turned around and walked to my room. The only thing on my mind was this: they just made the decision for me. I was leaving not for revenge, but to finally live on my own terms. I started packing the next morning, no tears, no hesitation, just one item after another. Clothes, documents, the essentials, folded neatly into 2 suitcases. I didn't have much. Most of my life, I'd learned how to live light, unburdened, maybe because I never really felt like home was a place. I was meant to stay. I had just zipped up the second suitcase when my mom knocked. She didn't wait for me to answer. She walked right in. "Emma, your dad was a little harsh last night, but you're calm now, right?" I didn't look up. "Say what you came to say." "I'm busy." She cleared her throat, then sat on the edge of the bed like she was preparing for a negotiation. "Your car, the black Honda, your dad and I were thinking, maybe you could let Liam borrow it for a while. He needs it for job interviews." I stood up straight, laughing like I couldn't believe what I just heard. "Borrow it? Just for a few months? He just graduated. He doesn't have an income yet. You're already working, you don't need it urgently." I crossed my arms, my voice not loud but firm as steel. I worked and saved for almost 8 months to buy that car on my own without borrowing a cent. If Liam needs a car, he can buy it from me. I'm willing to sell at a fair price. My mom's eyes widened, like I had just said something scandalous. "You're going to charge your own brother for a car?" "No, I'm going to charge someone for my car. And if you want to talk about family, fairness starts with not treating me like a walking ATM." I heard my dad's footsteps in the hallway. He stood at the door, eyes dark. "That's too much, Emma." I turned to him, unflinching. "What's too much is you always using 'he has nothing' as an excuse to make me give up everything." I've stayed silent for long enough. He took a step forward, pointed his finger at me. "If you feel like no one respects you in this house, then get out." I stood still for a few seconds, no reaction, no anger, just a slow nod. "All right, I'll go. And this time, I'm not coming back." I picked up my 2 suitcases and walked down the stairs. My dad said nothing more. My mom called out behind me, "You can't live alone forever. When you need help, don't expect anyone to be there." I stopped at the bottom step, never turning around. If the price of being helped is having to give up my self-respect, then I'd rather face the world alone. I opened the door and rolled my suitcase out. No one saw me off, no words of good luck, just the sound of the door slamming shut behind me like a final punctuation mark on 26 years of living in a family I never truly felt I belonged to. I temporarily rented a small room at a roadside motel in Bloomington, $580 a month. Not comfortable, not pretty, but at least it was mine, a place where I could sleep without worrying someone would knock to demand money or demand the car I bought with my own hard-earned savings. I started planning to change jobs. My old office was too far away, and I knew I needed a clean break, no shared addresses, nowhere they could drop by unannounced. Just a few days after I left, Liam called. I let the phone ring 5 times before picking up. "What you did was too much. Mom and Dad are really mad." I leaned back against the wall, my voice light as a breeze. "They're mad because they couldn't get the car, right?" Liam was quiet for a moment, then lowered his voice. "You know, I needed to go to job interviews. Why do you have to make everything a big deal?" I closed my eyes, letting out a soft laugh. "Liam, you had an entire graduation party that cost nearly $5,000. You've been pampered your whole life, forgiven for bad grades, praised just for trying. This car is the one thing I get to keep for myself. And you know what? I'm keeping it no matter what." Liam said nothing, not a word. I hung up. I knew that call would reach my mom within the hour, and I also knew the real battle had just begun. I woke up the next morning in a cheap hotel room, thin curtains failing to block the sunlight slipping through every crack in the window. No more stomping footsteps on the old wooden floor. No more mom shouting from the kitchen. No more tightness in my chest. Every time I walked down the stairs, just silence, cold, and, strangely, I felt at peace. The motel I stayed in was in the South Loop area near the I-35W freeway, a rundown, damp place, but I didn't have many options. $70 a night, a small room, stained walls, a bathroom with a rusty faucet. But at least here I knew for sure no one had a spare key to come in without knocking. I spent the first 2 days just sleeping, eating cup noodles and staying silent, no social media, no messages. I turned off my phone every night, like I was trying to erase the outside world. I needed to disconnect before I could start rooting myself somewhere new. On the third day, I started looking for an apartment. I didn't need anything fancy, just a small kitchen, decent heating, and a quiet enough space where I could breathe without feeling smothered. After 12 phone calls and 5 viewings, I found a one-bedroom apartment in West Street. Paul $500 a month, utilities included. The apartment was on the second floor of a 3-story old building. No elevator. The hardwood floors were slightly warped. The white paint on the walls had turned cream with age, but the window overlooked a sunlit empty lawn. I stood in the middle of the empty room, afternoon light streaming through the glass, casting long shadows on the floor, and for the first time in my life I whispered to myself, "This is my home." I moved in the very next day, no furniture, no decorations, just 2 suitcases. An air mattress I rushed to buy at Target, and a plastic folding table. I didn't need more. Every item I brought in had one purpose only. I chose it for me, not to please anyone, not because someone told me to. It took me almost a week to clean, retape peeling wall edges, replace the curtains, and buy a small bookshelf. I planted a pot of lavender on the windowsill. The scent reminded me of the old backyard, but no longer tied to bitter memories. I started learning how to live alone from scratch, setting my own alarm clock, making breakfast by myself, fried eggs and toast, choosing whether or not I wanted to talk to anyone that day. I rescheduled my remote work with the company, paused side projects, and only took on tasks enough to cover my living expenses. No more pushing myself to earn as much as possible. No more calculating the part to send back home. Now every dollar I earned was mine. I was no longer someone else's money machine. At night, I read books, the ones I used to hesitate to buy, fearing they'd be called a waste of money. I watched movies on my laptop, wrapped in a blanket on the living room floor, laughing out loud without anyone scolding me for being too noisy for a girl. I wrote in my journal, wrote letters to my 10-year-old self to tell that little girl, we made it out. And I began learning to forgive, not because they deserved it, but because I didn't want to carry that anger into this new space. Every time I went grocery shopping alone, I no longer heard, "Why didn't you get some for Liam too?" Every time I turned off my phone at 10 p.m., I wasn't woken up by Mom shouting, "Emma, remember to take your brother to school tomorrow." I had broken the endless cycle, an exhausting loop of unrecognized sacrifices. 6 weeks after I left home, I received an email from Liam, no greeting, no apology, just one single line, "How are you doing? I need to borrow some money." I didn't reply. I wasn't angry, I just clicked archive and shut my laptop. I looked out the window. The lavender pot was in full bloom, glowing purple in the golden light of late afternoon, no one standing behind me, no voice pushing me to live by their expectations. I took a deep breath. For the first time in 26 years, freedom wasn't just a concept. It smelled like sunshine, tasted like morning coffee, and sounded like soft jazz echoing through my little apartment. I wasn't surprised when they came back. I was just surprised it took them 3 months to reach out. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was at my usual cafe near the apartment, the one with a warm corner seat by the window, dark roast coffee, and soft music when my phone rang. My mom's name lit up the screen, and my chest tightened for a second. Then I answered, like a test to see if I'd gotten strong enough. Her voice was sweet, too sweet to be real. "Emma, I miss you. It's been a while. Are you doing okay?" I didn't respond right away. Every word she spoke was sugar-coated, but the bitter medicine beneath was all too familiar. "What do you want?" I asked plainly. She hesitated a bit, then said lightly, as if talking about buying a carton of milk, "Your dad, Liam, and we'd like to see you. There's something we need to talk about, family stuff." I nodded, not because I softened, but because I wanted to hear them say what I already knew. They needed money again. We met Monday evening at a small Italian restaurant in downtown Street. Paul. I arrived on time. My mom wore a new sweater, hair neatly curled. My dad had already ordered a drink, acting like a busy man doing someone a favor. And Liam still the eternal boy in their eyes, but this time in a dress shirt and tie, trying hard to look grown up. I sat down, no greetings, no smile. My dad glanced at my mom, then looked at me, his voice gruff but forced calm. Liam has a great business idea. He wants to open a modern cafe open space, live music, handcrafted pastries. We were thinking if you could loan him $50,000 loan. I cut him off. Or just give it to him? No one answered. I turned to Liam. You have any experience in business management? Finance? Liam gave a sheepish grin. I'm passionate. I've got a detailed plan. If you help me with the capital, I can start right away. I leaned on the table, looking each of them in the eye. All right, you want to borrow $50,000? I'll lend it, no interest, but under one condition. All three of them leaned in slightly, eyes lighting up, but I wasn't done. Mom and Dad will sign a formal loan agreement and put up the house as collateral. If Liam doesn't pay it back within 12 months, the house becomes mine. The room's warmth dropped instantly, like someone turned off the heat in the middle of a Minnesota winter. My dad slowly put his glass down, fingers tightening, voice hissing through clenched teeth. What the hell are you saying? I'm talking about responsibility and security, I said firmly. If Liam's serious, and if you believe in him, there's no reason not to sign the agreement. My mom winced. You can't ask us to mortgage the house. We've lived there our whole lives. And I lived there too my whole life, I replied without hesitation, treated like I didn't exist. If you want my money, it has to come with something of equal value in return, Liam stammered. I didn't think you'd be so calculating, I smirked. You didn't calculate. That's why you expect others to take the risk for you. But I'm not like that anymore, Liam. I'm no longer the naive daughter who believes in unconditional family loyalty. My dad slammed his hand on the table, knocking his water glass over. You're ungrateful. All you care about is yourself. What kind of person are you, Emma? You're not my daughter anymore. I calmly stood up and wiped the spilled water off my coat. That's your choice. Convenient, actually, because I never truly felt like your daughter in that house anyway. I walked out past the three stunned faces, leaving behind a cold, untouched meal and a truth they never wanted to face. I was no longer part of the circle they used to bind me. For 26 years, I thought they'd come back, try to beg or bargain, but they didn't. After that night at the Italian restaurant, when my dad shouted, "You're not my daughter anymore," the whole family went silent, as if I had never existed. No calls, no messages, no one knocking on my door. And I didn't need them anymore. 3 months passed. Summer gave way to early fall. My small apartment now felt cozy with a few secondhand furniture pieces I'd picked up from the thrift market. A walnut bookshelf, a small dining table for two, and a moss green armchair that I cherished more than any gift my mother had ever given me. I lived peacefully in my own little world, no demands, no intrusions. Each morning, I woke up early, jogged around Harriet Park, brewed coffee, listened to podcasts, and worked remotely. I had never felt life this light before, until one Saturday afternoon when I was picking tomatoes at the farmer's market and ran into Olivia, my paternal cousin. We were never close, but we kept polite contact Christmas cards, birthday wishes on social media. When she saw me, she froze, sighing like she had just seen a ghost. "Emma, you haven't heard?" I looked up slightly, frowning. "Heard what?" Olivia glanced around nervously, as if afraid someone might overhear, then whispered, "About Liam and your parents." I didn't respond, but my gaze made it clear I expected a full explanation. She exhaled, her tone dropping. Liam's cafe shut down. It only lasted not even 3 months, huge losses. No customers, completely in debt. I stayed silent, no surprise, no pity, just a quiet confirmation I had been right. Your parents, Olivia continued, had to sell the house to cover his debt. It's been listed for over a month. Word is, they're looking for a cheaper place to rent further out. I nodded a small gesture, like I was reacting to the weather rather than the collapse of an entire family. Olivia looked at me, as if trying to guess whether I'd cry, rage, or gloat. But I only asked one question. Did they try to contact me? Olivia paused for a few seconds, then shook her head. No one mentioned you. It's like you never existed. I laughed a dry, cold laugh. Then they've finally done what they always quietly wished for, living a life without me. Olivia bit her lip, as if she wanted to say something more, but didn't. I picked out a few tomatoes, placed them in my cloth bag, and paid. Before leaving, I turned and said gently, if they ask, tell them I'm fine, doing very well, and not planning to come back. That night, I sat alone in my little kitchen, candlelight flickering on the dining table. I made something simple spaghetti with tomato sauce and meatballs. I played jazz music, opened the window to let the crisp autumn air and its scent drift in no arguments, no guilt trips, no demands, just what I chose. I thought about the old house, the one I grew up in, always in the shadow of my younger brother, where every move I made was scrutinized, every effort undervalued, every word labeled disrespectful. Now that house was up for sale. The walls I once cried against, the stairs I once climbed with heavy disappointment, would soon belong to someone else. And I didn't feel sad, not at all, because I'd gotten out, no longer trying to please anyone, no longer the responsible older sister, the sacrificial eldest, or the daughter who never measured up. I am Emma, 26, free, independent, and at peace. I know some people will judge me, say I turned my back on blood, that I should have helped my brother, that I shouldn't have walked away when my parents were struggling. But they never lived in that house. They didn't witness nearly 3 decades of me being pushed to the sidelines. I don't hate Liam. I just refuse to take responsibility for the failure he chose. I don't hate my parents. I simply refuse to carry the weight of a so-called family bond that was nothing more than a noose around my neck. And if anyone asks, Emma, will you ever go back? The answer will always be no. From Emma's story, I've come to realize that not every family is a safe place. When love is conditional on one-sided sacrifice and exploitation, we have the right to walk away and protect ourselves. Freedom doesn't come from being accepted, it comes from the moment you dare to say enough to long-standing injustice. Emma didn't abandon anyone, she just stopped abandoning herself. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is walk away and start a life that's truly your own. What do you think about Emma's decision? Was she too harsh? Or was it exactly what she needed to protect herself? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to follow the channel so you won't miss more emotional, true life stories like this.